E-hailing taxi operators protesting today over operating permits and the impounding of their vehicles. But it doesn't seem there's a unanimous view within the industry about how to proceed. For perspective, let's bring in Bolt representative Melithemba Mnguni, who joins us now via our video link. Melithemba, I beg your pardon. Thank you very much indeed for making time to speak to us, and welcome to the SABC. Let me just get a sense of the buy-in from your end around the strike.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers. Look, there is a confusion from our side because there's lack of understanding as far as compliance is concerned. A lot of drivers or operators, they don't even know what is required from them. They are quite surprised when they get impounded because of lack of these operating permits that are required from them. That's why you see this confusion that is there.
Yeah, my understanding, Melithemba, is that you're part of the, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong about the exact wording, but I think it's the Forum E-Hailing Council Partnership. Can you tell us a bit more about that and perhaps who your stakeholders are?
Indeed, I am the Secretary General of E-Hailing Partners Council,
right,
in which we represent the interest of operators, which is the drivers and then fleet owners. And our role is to represent them in their needs and their interest. That goes to this issue that we currently have, which is a crisis on impoundment. So we've got the law enforcement impounding e-hailing cars. But I understand it's also extended to other transport modes, demanding operating permits. And it's been going on since late last year, and mainly in Pretoria and then Ekurhuleni or Tambo. And we find these impoundments to be unjust because there is an issue with the department where they've got a backlog currently sitting with a 2-year backlog. And they've went as far as imposing a moratorium to stop applications so that they try to address the backlog. So now they are making it a problem of operators when it is them that are not able to meet the applications that are there. And mind you, the operators are paying for these operating permits when they apply. So there is no excuse in terms of administration of these applications. And to tell you, last year, we had a meeting with them, and according to their own statistics, they had received about 21,000 applications, and they'd only processed less than half of that. And that tells you that as operators, we are wanting to comply. Unfortunately, they don't have the systems on their side.
All right, we'll speak a bit more about what the solutions perhaps may look like. I just want to get a sense of where the E-Hailing Partners Council stands on today's march in particular. Safe to say that you support this action?
Yes, we do support the action. Unfortunately, it's been organized prematurely without a mass broader mobilization. As the council, we're still working on a protest that will cover the widespread and then looking at the logistics around addressing this issue. So there is a misunderstanding around those that are responsible with the operating license. Hence, the strike is directed to union buildings, whereas these issues are just embedded within the provincial transport department.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, whether or not this particular march today is directed at the right institution, for lack of a better term. And in fact, as you're speaking, another issue that seems to be emerging is the fragmentation within or among operators themselves in a context where, as you've conceded, there seems to be a bit of confusion.
There is confusion, but I guess that there is an element of ignorance, but at the same time, our government has not played a role. So if you look at the requirements for one to operate public transport, they are required to, as a driver, to have a PDP, which is a professional driver's permit. Then in terms of the vehicle, you must have an operator card. And beyond an operator card, you must, apologies about that. And beyond an operator card, you must then have an operating license. And a lot of operators don't know about this because the platforms that are there, your Ubers and Bolt, they don't require these when you join them. Hence, we've been calling our government to regulate these companies so that they make sure that they are compelled to comply with the transport requirements. If you look at all the other transport modes, it is a requirement from their side to say they need to have all these operating licenses within their platforms. But it's different with e-hailing because there are no regulations regulating the e-hailing app companies.
All right. Whether or not the operators are part of today's march, it seems there is at least a consensus that there's an issue with how the state is responding to these drivers. What does the way forward then look like, Melithemba, especially because, let's face it, this is not a new issue. We've had discussions before about some of the more prohibitive ways in which these laws are affecting operators' ability to continue trying to earn a living.
Look, the solution lies with the Department of Transport. And when it comes to that, it then becomes also part of the National Department of Transport. But with this one, the Provincial Department of Transport is required to have a regional permit regulators, which they don't have. And they have not had them since 2009 when they are required to have them, which is very unfortunate. And as a result, they are not able to process the application. So what they need is to have systems in place where they are able to process these applications. And that's the solution that is required. But you would remember that just last year, the president signed the amendment bill on the transport. So the sooner that process is speed up, then we'll have more clarification around the regulations of e-hailing operators. And that is the solution that is required right now. But what is unfair currently is for the law enforcement to be impounding cars of e-hailing operators, whereas the problem of lack of compliance is coming from them. And that's the difference between the current administration or the MEC with the previous one. They understood and took responsibility for their failures to process the operating permit. And as a result, they made sure that they don't enforce these impoundments. 5 years ago, they tried again to have another moratorium in which they wanted to address the backlog. They could not. It was a moratorium for a year, which was then extended with 6 months, but they could not address that problem. So I think they really need to come up with something solid. And hopefully now, because the MEC announced last year that he set up a crisis committee around this operating license, which was given 60 days. I'm sure it will be lapsing very soon. And hopefully there will be something solid from there.